So, very good evening, friends. Today we'll start with the last chapter, that is chapter 11, which is of key regulations. So, basically, different regulations are there like FCRA, SEBI regulations, prohibition of insider trading, etc. etc. So, it starts with the Securities Contracts Regulation Act 1956. And questions are being asked on this. So, Securities Contracts Regulation Act 1956 is an act to prevent undesirable transactions in securities by regulating the business of dealing therein by providing for certain matters connected therewith. So, it provides for direct and indirect control of virtually all aspects of securities trading. So, this Securities Contracts Regulation Act, it provides for direct and indirect control of virtually all aspects of securities trading and the running of the stock exchange. It gives the central government the regulatory jurisdiction over the stock exchanges through a process of recognition and continued supervision, contracts in securities and listing of securities on stock exchanges. So a transaction securities between two persons is essentially a contract, and this law that specifically applies in the case of securities contracts. So this is the law which applies in the case of securities contracts, and by virtue of this act, it tends to prevent the undesirable transactions in securities by regulating the business of dealing therein. It provides for certain matters connected therewith, provides for direct and indirect control over virtually all aspects of securities trading and the running of the stock exchange. So central government, by virtue of this act, gets the regulatory jurisdiction over stock exchanges through a process of recognition and continued supervision. So what is the primary objective? The primary objective of the act is to prevent undesirable transactions in securities market by regulating the business of dealing therein, by providing for certain measures connected therewith. And what are the other objectives? The other objectives are to promote a healthy stock market, to provide for the regulation of stock exchange, to provide for the regulation of transactions in securities, to prevent undesirable speculation or transactions in securities, to regulate the buying and selling of securities outside the limits of stock exchange, and to provide for ancillary matters. So these are the objectives of this act. And coverage, it applies to whole of India. And the provisions, but this is very important. The provisions of the Securities Contract Regulation Act, they do not apply to the government, RBI, any local authority, any corporation set up by a special law. Any person who has effected any transaction with or through the agency of any authority referred from 1 to 4 above. So these provisions of SCRA do not apply to this. And any convertible bond or share warrant or any option or right in relation thereto, insofar as it entitles the person in whose favor any of the foregoing has been issued to obtain at his option from the company or other body corporate issuing the same, or from any of its shareholders or duly appointed agents, shares of the company or other body corporate, whether by conversion of the bond or warrant or otherwise, on the basis of the price agreed upon when the same was issued. So this also is not covered in SCRA, basically stock option. So sometimes companies issue stock option that, okay, at the time of issue, they give that the agreed price of conversion. So if there is an agreed price of conversion when at the time of issue, then such convertible bonds or share warrants or options or rights in relation thereto are also not covered by SCRA. Now exemption. So any class of contracts in respect of which an exemption notification has been issued, and central government can issue notification if it is satisfied that it is necessary in the interest of trade or commerce. Now they may exempt, the exemption may relate to the entire act or only to certain provisions thereof. And they may also specify the conditions, limitations or restrictions subject to which the act shall not apply. Now definition of various terms is there. So contract. So contract means a contract for or relating to the purchase or sale of securities. Then derivative. So derivative includes securities derived from a debt instrument, share, loan, whether secured or unsecured, risk instrument or contract for differences, or any other form of security. And contract which derives its value from the prices or index of prices of underlying securities. Then commodity derivatives and other instruments as declared by the central government to be derivatives. So this is the definition of derivative. Then government security. So it means a security created and issued whether before or after commencement of this act by the central government for the purpose of raising a public loan and having one of the forms specified under section 2 subsection 2 of the Public Debt Act. So this is the definition of government security. Now goods. So every kind of movable property other than actionable claims, money and securities. This is the definition of goods. Then commodity derivatives. So commodity derivatives, it means a contract for the delivery of such goods as notified by central government and which is not a ready delivery contract, or for differences which derives its values from prices or indices of prices of such underlying goods or activities, services, rights, interest and events as notified by the central government in consultation with SEBI, but does not include securities as referred in points 1 and 2 above under section 2EC. Member means a member of the recognized stock exchange. And NTSDC, non-transferable specific delivery contract. Then options in securities, RTP. So it means a contract for the purchase or sale of a right to buy or sell, or a right to buy and sell securities in future, and includes Teji Mandi, Gully, put, call, a put and call and securities. So these are the various options. Now prescribed by rules. A ready delivery contract. So it is a contract which provides for the delivery of goods and the payment of price thereof either immediately or within 11 days after the date of the contract and subject to conditions notified by the central government in respect of any goods. The period under such contract not being capable of extension either by the mutual consent of the parties or otherwise. So such contract shall not be deemed to be a ready delivery contract where any such contract is performed either wholly or in part by realization of any sum of money being the difference. So if you settle the contract with difference, then it is not a ready delivery contract. By realization of any sum of money being the difference between the contract rate and the settlement rate, or clearing rate or the rate of any offsetting contract, or by any other means whatsoever, and as a result of which the actual tendering of the goods covered by the contract or payment of the full price thereof is dispensed with. Then recognized stock exchange. So it means a stock exchange which is for the time being recognized by the central government. So these are some of the definitions. Then rules. So rules include, in case of stock exchange, which is an incorporated association, its memorandum and articles of association. Then the Securities Appellate Tribunal. So it means the Securities Appellate Tribunal established under 15K2. Then securities. Securities include shares, scrips, stocks, bonds, debentures, debenture stock, or other marketable securities of a like nature in or any incorporated company or other body corporate. Derivatives, units, or any other instrument issued by any collective investment scheme. Security receipts as defined in SARFAESI Act. Units or any other such investment issued to investors under any mutual fund scheme. So all are covered in securities. Any certificate or instrument by whatever name called issued to an investor by an issuer, government securities, instruments notified by central government, rights or interest in securities. SDC, specific delivery contract. Then spot delivery contract. What is the spot delivery contract? So it means, so there is immediate delivery and there is spot delivery. So it means a contract which provides for actual delivery of securities and the payment of a price, therefore either on the same day as the date of the contract or on the next day. The actual period taken for the dispatch of the securities or the remittance of money, therefore, through post will be excluded from the computation of the above period if the parties to the contract do not reside in the same town or locality. Then transfer of securities by the depository from the account of the beneficial owner to the account of another beneficial owner when such securities are dealt with by a depository. So this period will be excluded. Now stock exchange. So stock exchange, it means any body of individuals, whether incorporated or not, constituted before corporatization and demutualization. Earlier, the stock exchanges were being run as body of individuals or as societies also. But that was before this Securities Contract Regulation Act. And a body corporate incorporated under the Companies Act, whether under a scheme of corporatization or demutualization or otherwise, and for the purpose of assisting, regulating, or controlling the business of buying, selling, or dealing in securities. Then transferable specific delivery contract. Then stock exchange recognition. So the power to recognize the stock exchange vests with the central government. This is important. So the power to recognize the stock exchange vests with the central government. However, it has delegated these powers to SEBI. So application for recognition. So any stock exchange desirous of being recognized should make an application to SEBI under Section 3 of Securities Contract Regulation Act. What is the form of application? Application is in Form A with a fees of 500. The application shall be accompanied by 4 copies of articles, bylaws, and rules and regulations. So contents of articles, bylaws, rules, and regulations. The articles, bylaws, rules, and regulations must contain specific details on governing body of such a stock exchange, its constitution and powers of management, and the manner in which its business is to be transacted. Then powers and duties of the office bearers of the stock exchange. Admission into the stock exchange of various classes of members, the qualifications for membership, and the exclusion, suspension, expulsion, and readmission of members therefrom or thereinto. Then procedure for registration of partnerships as members of the stock exchange in cases where the rules provide for such membership, and the nomination and appointment of authorized representatives and clerks. So generally, rules governing listing, trading and settlement, penalties and prohibition, disciplinary provisions, and defaults are contained in the bylaws. This is also important. So rules governing listing, trading and settlement, penalties and prohibition, disciplinary provisions, and defaults, these are contained in the bylaws of the stock exchange. So particulars as to composition of the board, powers of the governing board, and membership provisions, these are contained in the articles. So there are articles and there are bylaws. Certain things are given in articles and certain things are given in bylaws. So we have to remember this thing. Then recognition by SEBI. So this is given in section 4. So SEBI may grant recognition to the stock exchange if it is satisfied that the rules or bylaws of the applicant stock exchange are in conformity with the prescribed conditions. Stock exchange is willing to comply with any condition that SEBI may impose for carrying out the objective of this act. The recognition would be in the interest of trade and also in public interest. Then conditions while granting recognition. So while granting recognition, the SEBI may impose such conditions as it may deem fit. For example, qualification for membership of the stock exchange, manner in which contracts shall be entered into and enforced as between members. This is important. So conditions while granting recognition. So these are some of the conditions. So conditions could be regarding qualification, manner in which contracts will be executed, then representation of the central government on the stock exchange, maintenance of accounts of members and their audit by chartered accountants. And this grant of recognition shall be published in the Gazette of India and also in the official Gazette of the state in which the stock exchange is located. And the recognition becomes effective from the date of its publication in the Gazette. This is also important, that the effective date of recognition is from the date of its publication in the Gazette of India. And it is published in both the Gazettes, Gazette of India, and also in the official Gazette of the state in which the stock exchange is located. So SEBI may also refuse to grant recognition after giving an opportunity of being heard, and the reasons for refusal should be communicated in writing. Then there are restrictions on alteration of rules. So the rules of a recognized stock exchange related to matters specified in point 5 above shall be amended only with the approval of SEBI. So once SEBI has granted approval, you cannot amend the rules without the approval of SEBI. Now, corporatization and demutualization. So this is the concept which is there in case of Securities Contract Regulation Act. What is this corporatization? Because prior to this Securities Contract Regulation Act, stock exchanges were being run as body of individuals or as partnership firms or as societies. But now onwards, it has to be in the corporate form. So there has to be a succession. So corporatization means the succession of a recognized stock exchange being a body of individuals or a society. This should be or instead of of. This should be or a society registered under the Societies Registration Act by another stock exchange being a company incorporated for the purpose of assisting, regulating, or controlling the business of buying, selling, or dealing in securities carried on by such individuals or society. So earlier, individuals, societies, they were running the business of the stock exchange, but now it has to be in corporate form. And the succession of recognized stock exchange from body of individuals or a society to a company, this is called the corporatization. Second is the concept of demutualization. So demutualization, because when you are running it as a society, so there is a concept of mutuality. But here, the ownership is to be segregated from the management. So this is the concept of demutualization. So when you are separating the ownership and management from the trading rights of the members of a recognized stock exchange. So this is the concept of demutualization. Now, different organizational forms. So different stock exchanges operate in different organizational forms: association of persons, body of individuals, societies, company limited by shares, company limited by guarantee. And then it says that there is a need for corporatization and demutualization. Why it is needed? To promote investor protection and to regulate transactions in stock exchanges and to avoid undesirable speculation and scam. The central government decided to make every stock exchange as a corporate entity limited by shares. So this is the concept of corporatization. And demutualization means to separate ownership, trading, and management in a stock exchange. And what is the appointed date? So appointed date is when all recognized stock exchanges shall be corporatized and demutualized as per the provisions contained in section 4B on and from the appointed date. So appointed date means the date which the SEBI may, by notification in the official gazette, appoint that, okay, by this date, all the recognized stock exchanges shall be corporatized and demutualized. And different appointed dates may be appointed for different recognized stock exchanges. And there is a provision for extension of this time period also. If SEBI is satisfied that any recognized stock exchange was prevented by sufficient cause from being corporatized or demutualized on or after the appointed date, it may specify another appointed date for that stock exchange. So such stock exchange may continue as such before such appointed date. Now, what is the procedure for this corporatization and demutualization? So you can go through this PPT. It is quite detailed that, okay, they have to submit a scheme and they have to provide for all these things. हाँ
सर आप ये जो निज़्म का जो मटेरियल आपने शेयर किया था, जो इसका हमने बुकलेट बना लिया था, इसमें ये सब नहीं है सर, इसमें तो 216 ही पेज है बस।
हाँ, कोई बात नहीं, ये वाला मैं शेयर कर दूंगा आपसे। ये मैंने इसके अंदर ही इंक्लूड कर दिया है।
ओह अच्छा अच्छा।
हाँ, क्योंकि देखो ऐसा है, जब हमें SCRA पढ़ना है तो SCRA पे कोई सवाल तो पूछ ही सकता है ना वो।
हाँ
तो थोड़ा पढ़ लीजिएगा जहां तक पढ़ सकें, कोई ऐसी बात नहीं है।
हाँ, तो ये लास्ट का चैप्टर आप शेयर कर दीजिएगा।
हाँ 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 हाँ, बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल।
हाँ सर, थैंक यू।
मोटा मोटा देख लीजिएगा एक बारी तो थोड़ा ठीक रहेगा।
हाँ
ये पढ़ सकते हैं, ये थोड़ा सा इंपॉर्टेंट है। ये क्या बोलता है? प्रोहिबिशन ऑफ अनडिजायरेबल स्पेकुलेटिव कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स। इसमें क्या है कि no person in the territory to which SCRA extends shall, except with SEBI's permission, enter into any contract for sale or purchase of securities other than a contract falling under any one or more of the following. Matlab, these are the only types of contracts which a person can enter into. Otherwise, permission of SEBI is required. So what are the permitted types of contracts? Spot delivery contracts, contracts for sale or purchase of securities or contracts in derivatives as permissible, contracts for preemption, including right of first refusal or tag along or drag along rights contained in shareholders agreements or articles of association of companies or other body corporate. So what is this tag along or drag along? Sometimes when you get private equity, so the person who gives you private equity, he says that, okay, if you want to say offload your shares to somebody else, then I should have the first refusal. I should have the right of first refusal, or you have to tag me along or you have to drag me along so that my shareholding is intact. So that is the concept of drag along or drag along. So such type of contracts can be entered into.
सर एक बार और बताइए टैग along.
हाँ, ये टैग अलॉन्ग और ड्रैग अलॉन्ग में क्या होता है? सपोज आप you are running a private limited company, you are in need of funds, so you contact a venture capital investor. So what venture capital investor will do? He says, okay, I will give you equity. Okay, our share will be 60-40. You will be the owner of 60% and I will be the owner of say 40%. Now suppose he offloads it to somebody else. Suppose the promoter wants to get out of this contract. So then in that case, the private equity investor puts a condition that, okay, if you want to sell your shares, then I should have the right of first refusal. So you will offer your shares first to me and then to somebody else, because I believe in your project. I believe in you as a person. So if you are exiting out of this, I should have the right of first refusal, or you tag along me or you drag along me also. So that if you offer somebody else, then you offer it first to me also. So this is the concept of drag along or tag along in case of shareholders agreement.
Okay.
So that my percentage remains intact. भाई मैंने आपके कॉन्फिडेंस पे दे दिया पैसा, अब आप बाहर निकलना चाह रहे हो, वो नहीं हो सकता. Then contracts and shareholders agreements or articles of association for purchase of sale of securities pursuant to exercise of an option contained therein to buy or sell the securities. So for all these types of contracts, SEBI's permission is not required. But other than these, if there is any such thing, then permission of SEBI is required. What are the conditions? The title and ownership of the underlying securities is held continuously by the selling party to such contract for a minimum period of 1 year from the date of entering into the contract. And the price or consideration payable for the sale or purchase of the underlying securities pursuant to exercise of any option is in compliance with all the laws for the time being in force. Suppose you cannot sell something to NRIs. Suppose NRIs are not covered in automatic route in some investment area. So in that case, you cannot sell your shares to NRIs. So it has to be in compliance with all the laws. Then the contract is settled by the way of actual delivery of the underlying securities, and the contract shall also be in accordance with the provisions of FEMA. Then licensing of dealers. So that's also important that every dealer has to have a license. Then security is issued under debt securitization. Not it is debt securitization. Rights of transfer or transferring to receive dividends. Then application of SCRA to certain delivery contracts. And this is a brief summary of the various regulations of SCRA Act. Now SEBI Act. So SEBI Act says, SEBI Act of 1992, it was enacted to provide for the establishment of a board to protect the interests of investors and securities and to promote the development. Basically, it is protecting the interest of investors. So what is the difference between SEBI and SCRA? SCRA basically it regulates the securities contracts. And this SEBI, it provides for the establishment of a board to protect the interest of investors in securities and to promote the development of and to regulate the securities market and for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. So basically two functions: protection of the interest of investors and development of and regulation of securities market. So SEBI Act in the broader sense perform the functions as stated in the above para. However, without any prejudice to the generality, the Act also provides for the following measures. First is regulating the business in stock exchanges and any other securities market. Then registering and regulating the working of the stockbrokers, share transfer agents, bankers to an issue, registrar to an issue, merchant bankers, underwriters, portfolio managers, investment advisors, and such other intermediaries who may be associated with the securities market manner in any manner. Then registering and regulating the working of the depositories and its participants, custodians of securities, foreign portfolio investors, credit rating agencies, and such other intermediaries as notified by SEBI. Registering and regulating the working of venture capital funds and other collective investment schemes, including mutual funds. Promoting and regulating self-regulatory organizations. Prohibiting fraudulent and unfair. As you know, the three institutes, they have promulgated their own self-regulatory organizations. So one of the functions of SEBI Act is promoting and regulating self-regulatory organizations. Then prohibiting fraudulent and unfair trade practices relating to securities market. Then promoting investors education and training of intermediaries of securities market. Prohibiting insider trading in securities and regulating substantial acquisition of shares and takeover of companies. So these are some of the other functions of SEBI, but the main functions of SEBI are protecting the interest of investors and promotion, development, and regulation of securities market. Then calling for information from undertaking inspection, conducting inquiries and audits of the stock exchanges, mutual funds, other persons associated with the securities market, intermediaries, and self-regulatory organizations in the securities market. Performing all such functions and exercising such powers under the provisions of Securities Contracts Regulation Act as may be delegated to SEBI by the central government. So there are some powers which are given under Securities Contract Regulation Act, but they are exercised by the SEBI only. So levying fees, so implementing agency is basically SEBI. Levying fees or other charges for carrying out the purpose of this section, conducting research for the above purposes, and calling from or furnishing to any such agencies as may be specified by SEBI such information as may be considered necessary by it for the efficient discharge of its functions, and performing such other functions as may be prescribed. So SEBI Act also empowers SEBI to impose penalties and initiate adjudication proceedings against intermediaries who default on the following grounds, such as failure to furnish information, then return, etc., failure by any person to enter into agreement with clients, etc. So there are some penalty provisions also. Next in line is the Depositories Act 1996. So this Depositories Act enables the setting up of multiple depositories in the country. So this was to ensure that there is competition in the depository services and more than one depository is in operation. So the Depository Act facilitated the establishment of the two depositories in India. One is NSDL, National Securities Depository Limited, and second is Central Depository Services India Limited, CDSL, NSDL and CDSL. The Depositories Act 1996 ushered in an era of efficient capital market infrastructure, improved investor protection, reduced risks, and increased transparency of transactions in the securities market. It also immensely benefited the issuer companies in terms of reduced costs and the effort used in managing their shareholder populace. Due to the introduction of the depository system, the investors are able to enjoy many benefits like free and instant transferability in a secured manner at lower cost, free from the problems like bad deliveries, odd lots, etc. So a depository established under the Depositories Act can provide any service. This is important. So a depository established under the Depositories Act can provide any service connected with the recording of allotment of securities or the transfer of ownership of securities in the record of a depository. A depository, however, cannot directly open accounts and provide services to clients. So any person willing to avail the services of the depository can do so by opening a demat account through any depository participant. So there has to be an intermediary in between. So NSDL will have to go through the depository participant of a depository and need to acknowledge the rights and obligation document provided by the depository participant. This is important. So rights and obligations of depositories participants, issuer and beneficial owners are spelled out clearly in this act. So SEBI, Depositories and Participants Regulation 2018 and the bylaws of the depository. Next in line is SEBI Stockbroker Regulations. So SEBI Stockbroker Regulations 1992 lays down the rules and regulations for registration of stockbrokers, including deposit and net worth criteria. It also prescribes the fees applicable to be paid to SEBI on grant of registration certificate from SEBI and the general code of conduct by the stockbroker holding certificate of membership. The Schedule 2, Regulation 7 of the SEBI Stockbroker Regulations provided code of conduct for stockbrokers. So it states that the stockbroker shall maintain high standards of integrity, promptitude, and fairness in the conduct of all its business. Then act with due skill, care, and diligence in the conduct of all its business, not indulge in manipulative, fraudulent, or deceptive transactions or schemes, or spread rumors with a view to distorting market equilibrium or making personal gains. Then not creating a false market either singly or in concert with others, or indulge in any act detrimental to the investor's interest or which leads to interference with the fair and smooth functioning of the market. In its duty to the investor, the stockbroker, in his dealings with the clients and the general investing public, shall faithfully execute the orders for buying and selling of the securities at the best available market price. The broker, as per the regulation, shall issue without delay to his client a contract note for all transactions in the form specified by the stock exchanges. So this regulation also prescribes the brokers to maintain different books of accounts, records, and documents. Next is SEBI Prohibition of Insider Trading Regulations. So insider trading essentially denotes dealings in a company's securities on the basis of confidential information relating to the company, which is not published or not known to the public, known as unpublished price-sensitive information used to make profits or avoid loss. So questions are being asked on this sensitive information. So insider trading is considered as an offense and is hence prohibited as per the SEBI Prohibition of Insider Trading Regulations. So these regulations came into force with effect from May 15 to May 2015. So any dealing or trading done by an insider based on information which is not available in public domain gives an undue advantage to insiders and affects market integrity. So this is not in line with the principle of fair and equitable markets. Thus, in order to protect the integrity of the market, the SEBI Prohibition of Insider Trading Regulations have been put in place. The regulations lay down the definition of insiders, restrictions on communication and trading by insiders, disclosure of trading by them, and the systemic provisions which need to be laid down and followed by a listed company, proposed to be a listed company, as well as intermediary. I have already shared with you the MCQ on all these regulations. I have shared with you, I think, 2-3 videos also, which were prepared by one of my staff members. Then Regulation 2G of the SEBI Insider Regulations defines an insider any person who is a connected person or is in possession of or having access to unpublished price-sensitive information. So they ask question on this also, who is an insider? Now is Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So money laundering involves disguising financial assets so that they can be used without detection of the illegal activity that produced them. So basically, it is converting the proceeds from crime to white money. So through money laundering, the launderer transforms the monetary proceeds derived from criminal activity into funds with an apparently legal source. So apparently it seems that everything is legal, but in the background, the proceeds have been derived from criminal activities, maybe smuggling or terrorism activities, etc. So the Prevention of Money Laundering Act is an act to prevent money laundering and to provide for confiscation of property derived from or involved in money laundering and for related matters. So Chapter 2, Section 3 of the PMLA describes the offense of money laundering, whosoever directly or indirectly attempts to indulge or knowingly assists or knowingly is a party or is actually involved in any process or activity connected with the proceeds of crime, including its concealment, possession, acquisition, or use, and projecting or claiming it as untainted property, shall be guilty of the offense of money laundering. If you want to see a detailed video, so I think on my YouTube channel, detailed video on this prevention of money laundering is available. I'll share the link also. So a person shall be guilty of the offense of money laundering if such person is found to have directly or indirectly attempted to indulge or knowingly assisted or knowingly is a party or is actually involved. So all these persons are guilty of the offense. Direct or indirect attempt, indulge or knowingly assisting, or knowingly becoming a party or becoming actually involved, being actually involved in one or more of the following processes or activities. And another important thing is it should be connected with proceeds of crime, namely concealment, possession, acquisition, use, projecting it as untainted property, or claiming as untainted property in any manner whatsoever. And the process or activity connected with proceeds of crime is a continuing activity and continues till such time as a person is directly or indirectly enjoying the proceeds of crime by its concealment or possession or acquisition or use or projecting it as untainted property or claiming it as untainted property in any manner whatsoever. So it's a continuing activity. Then Section 12. Section 12 of PMLA stipulates that every reporting entity, that is a banking company, financial institution, intermediary, or a person carrying on a designated business or profession, shall maintain a record of all transactions, including information relating to transactions in such a manner as to enable it to reconstruct individual transactions. So questions are being asked on this. Under which act the reporting entities are to record transactions in such a manner that the chain can be reconstructed in the form of individual transactions. So PMLA is the act, and the records shall be maintained for a period of 5 years. This is also important. They ask this question that records shall be maintained for how much period. So it shall be maintained for a period of 5 years from the date of transaction between a client and the reporting entity. Furnished to the director within such time as been prescribed information related to such transactions, whether attempted or executed, the nature and value of which may be prescribed. Maintain record of documents evidencing identity of its clients and beneficial owners, as well as accounts, files, and business correspondence relating to its clients. The record shall be maintained for a period of 5 years after the business relationship between a client and the reporting entity has ended or the account has been closed, whichever is later. So they have to maintain, the banker cannot say that, okay, this account is closed. So even after closure, they have to maintain the records 5 years after the business relationship ceases. And every information maintained, furnished, or verified, save as otherwise provided under any law for the time being, shall be kept confidential. And the central government may by notification exempt any reporting entity or class of reporting entities from any obligation. Then Section 12AA of PMLA, what it says? It states that enhanced due diligence by reporting entities. So every reporting entity shall, prior to the commencement of each specified transaction, first of all, basically, this is based on the concept of KYC. Verify the identity of the clients undertaking such specified transactions by authentication under the Aadhaar of Financial and Other Subsidies, Benefits and Services Act 2016 in such manner and subject to such conditions as may be prescribed. provided that verification requires authentication of a person who is not entitled to obtain an Aadhaar number under the provisions of the SAT Act. Verification to authenticate the identity of the client undertaking such specified transaction shall be carried out by such other process or mode as may be prescribed. So in certain situations, suppose someone is a non-resident, so Aadhaar may not be required. So in such cases, the rules will be prescribed. Take additional steps to examine the ownership and financial position, including sources of funds of the client in such manner as may be prescribed. Take additional steps as may be prescribed to record the purpose behind conducting the specified transaction and the intended nature of the relationship between the transaction parties. The information obtained while applying the announced due diligence measure shall be maintained for a period of 5 years from the date of transaction. So where the client fails to fulfill the above conditions, the reporting entity shall not allow the specified transaction to be carried out. And specified transaction means any withdrawal or deposit in cash exceeding such amount. Any transaction in foreign exchange, this is also very important. So what are specified transactions? So any withdrawal or deposit in cash exceeding such amount. Now there is a provision for this TCS also. So if you withdraw beyond a certain limit, 10 lakhs in case of saving account and 1 crore in case of a current account, then they are deducting TDS also. So any withdrawal or deposit in cash exceeding such amount, any transaction in foreign exchange exceeding such amount, any transaction in any high value imports or remittances. Such other transactions or class of transactions in the interest of revenue or where there is a high risk of money laundering or terrorist financing as may be prescribed. So where any specified transactions or series of specified transactions undertaken by a client is considered suspicious or likely to involve proceeds of crime, the reporting entity shall increase the future monitoring of the business relationship with the client, including greater scrutiny or transactions in such manner as may be prescribed. Next is SEBI Prevention of Fraudulent and Unfair Trade Practices Regulations. What it says, so SEBI prohibition of fraudulent and unfair trade practices relating to securities market regulations prohibit fraudulent, unfair and manipulative trade practices in securities. Important. Fraud is defined as inclusive of any act, expression, omission, or concealment committed to induce another person or his agent to deal in securities. There may or may not be wrongful gain or avoidance of any loss. However, that is inconsequential in determining if fraud has been committed. So, if there is any act, expression, omission, or concealment committed to induce, the idea is that you want to induce whether wrongful gain happened or whether any loss could be avoided, that is inconsequential. So some of the instances cited are as follows. First is the willful misrepresentation of the truth or concealment of material fact in order that another person may act to his detriment. A suggestion as to a fact which is not true by the one who does not believe it to be true. An active concealment of a fact by a person having knowledge or belief of the act. A promise made without any intention of performing it. A representation, whether true or false, made in a reckless and careless manner. So all these are covered under this fraud. So these are the questions. So this first question is on Depositories Act. The Depositories Act ushered in an era of efficient capital market infrastructure, improved investor protection, reduced risk, and increased transparency of transactions in the securities market. This is on PMLA. So Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So as per PMLA, every reporting entity has to maintain a record of all transactions in such a manner as to enable it to reconstruct individual transactions. This question they are frequently asking. Now third is SEBI stockbroker regulations. They provided code of conduct for stockbrokers. And last question. This is also on SCRA. So SCRA provides for direct and indirect control of virtually all aspects of securities trading and the running of stock exchanges. इसको देख लेते हैं, ये सारा आपका ये दिया हुआ पेज 208 पर। अब कुछ क्वेश्चंस देख लेते हैं। ये क्वेश्चंस मैंने ऑलरेडी शेयर भी किए हैं आपसे। MCQ on SEBI regulations, MCQ on insider trading। ये देखते हैं MCQ on insider trading। ये मेरी स्क्रीन नजर आ रही होगी आपको, है ना जी? तो ये है आपके MCQ on SEBI regulations for prevention of insider trading। क्या क्वेश्चन है, देखिए जरा, अटेम्प्ट कीजिए, क्या बोलता है। सो विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज इनसाइडर ट्रेडिंग? ये 4 ऑप्शंस दे रखे हैं आपको, तो बताइए इनमें से कौन सा इनसाइडर ट्रेडिंग है। You sell your company stock because you know it is about to announce poor earnings. Your company starts supplying parts for a customer's secret major product, so you buy the client stock. You dump a company shares after your broker confidentially tells you the CEO at the company just stole stock, but the sale has not yet been publicly reported.
All three, sir, all above.
I will share with you the answer sheet also. ठीक है, आंसर शीट से मिला लीजिएगा इसको। अगला देखते हैं, एज पर सेबी रेगुलेशंस इनसाइडर मींस, इनसाइडर कौन है?
The B है, any person who is possessing having access to unpublished price sensitive information.
और पहला
Connected,
both है सर,
any person connected
both
person
A
है।
and B।
हाँ,
Okay, both।
तो दोनों है ये, आंसर इसका डी हो जाएगा।
D।
आप देख लो ना, इसमें डी हो जाएगा। तो इसमें ये इनसाइड दिया हुआ है इसके अंदर ये। ये दिस इज गिवन ऑन पेज नंबर 211। अगला देख लेते हैं। नो इनसाइडर शैल डैश when published price sensitive information.
No information,
All three, sir।
all होगा सर, D।
Restrictions क्या है? Communication and trading by insiders, disclosure of trading by them, systemic provisions which need to be laid down. तो आंसर इसका डी ही हो जाएगा। अगला क्वेश्चन देखिए। Unpublished price sensitive information can be connected with
all of the above होगा सर।
ये तो सिंपल बना रखे हैं, बट इसमें थोड़ा सा कॉम्प्लिकेट भी कर सकता है। कोई कह सकता है कि एक इसमें कोई और डाल दे, विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज नॉट अनपब्लिश्ड प्राइस सेंसिटिव इन्फॉर्मेशन, ऐसा भी करके डाल सकता है। अच्छा, हु इज द अप्रूविंग अथॉरिटी फॉर ट्रेडिंग प्लान? तो ट्रेडिंग प्लान के लिए अप्रूविंग अथॉरिटी कौन सी है?
तो डी होनी चाहिए।
चलो मैं आंसर डाल दूंगा बाद में। ट्रेडिंग प्लान प्रेजेंटेड टू द कंप्लायंस ऑफिसर बाय इनसाइडर इज, मैं आपको इसका एक वीडियो भी शेयर करूंगा। वीडियो वर्षा जी मैंने डाल रखा ना ग्रुप में ऑलरेडी।
सर देखा नहीं मैंने।
हाँ हाँ, नहीं ग्रुप में मैंने डाल रखा।
आज डाला या थोड़े दिन हो गए?
आज नहीं, बहुत पहले जब ये क्लास शुरू हुई थी तभी डाल दिया।
ओके, उस टाइम ना आई थिंक मैं पेड क्लासेस वाले ग्रुप में नहीं थी।
ओके, तो इनके पास होगा प्रफुल्ल रेणु से जी, आपके पास है? आपने देखा वो वीडियो?
नहीं सर, याद नहीं आ रहा सर। सर इसका आंसर क्या होगा? सी।
इसका
B
आंसर
और
मेरे
C।
नाम से डी होना चाहिए।
हाँ, बी और सी बराबर है।
चेक कर लेंगे, कोई बात नहीं। टाइम पीरियड ऑफ ट्रेडिंग प्लान कितना होता है?
ट्वेल्व मंथ।
चलो पहले क्वेश्चन देख लो सारे। ट्रेडिंग प्लान फॉर्मुलेटेड बाय इनसाइडर shall entail trading for a period of not less than, disclosures made by insiders under SEBI should be maintained by a company for a period not less than, ये जो डिस्क्लोजर्स हैं ये कितने पीरियड तक होने चाहिए? As per SEBI regulations, no scheme shall be offered to employees of a company unless Schedule A। ये सारे आप क्वेश्चंस, यू प्लीज गो थ्रू दिस क्वेश्चंस, so I'll give you the answers also।
सर ये चैप्टर 11 में से ही है सारे जो आपने आज पढ़ाया है?
हाँ हाँ, और क्या।
अच्छा।
नहीं ऐसा है, मतलब क्या होता है भाई, ये थोड़ा बहुत उसमें से नहीं है। ऐसा होता है ना, जब उसने हमें टॉपिक दे दिया, टॉपिक में से वो कोई भी सवाल पूछ सकता है। ऐसा नहीं हो सकता वो क्या हम ये कहते हैं भाई हमने उसमें तो लिखा नहीं है चैप्टर में, ऐसी बात नहीं है।
मुझे एक्चुअली स्टॉक मार्केट के बारे में ना ज्यादा नॉलेज है नहीं।
हाँ तो नहीं, तो कम से कम ना इतना तो याद कर ही लीजिएगा।
हाँ जी, वो तो क्वेश्चंस पढ़ के वो तो देख लेंगे।
हाँ बस बस बस।
मुझे लगा कि चैप्टर छूट गया तो इस वजह से मुझे नहीं समझ आ
एमसीक्यू
रहे
ऑन
क्वेश्चंस।
स्टॉक ब्रोकर रेगुलेशंस, ये देखिए एमसीक्यू ऑन स्टॉक ब्रोकर रेगुलेशंस, ये
तो ये सारे एमसीक्यूज एक्सेल में है।
ये वर्ड फाइल है, वर्ड दे देंगे, उससे क्या फर्क पड़ता है?
आपने आपने जो एक्सेल दी थी उसमें
एक्सेल
है
में भी
ये?
होंगे 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 होंगे, हाँ पक्का।
ओके
ये मैंने बोल दिया था लड़की को ये डालने के लिए, मेरे ख्याल से डाल चुका होगा उसमें।
ओके सर।
हम्म। इसको वहीं से देख लें, वहां चलते हैं सीधा। मैं वो निकाल देता हूँ, 1 मिनट लगेगा, देख लेता हूँ। वो एमसीक्यू फॉर प्रैक्टिस इसमें होना चाहिए 29(3). हाँ कोई नहीं, ऐसा है ना, ये मैं ग्रुप में शेयर कर दूंगा। अब इससे भी इम्पोर्टेंट थोड़ा सा ना उसको देखते हैं हम, वो केस स्टडी थोड़ी सी पढ़ लेते हैं, वो ज्यादा जरूरी है। आज मैंने शेयर की ना आपसे, उसको थोड़ा देखते हैं, बोरवेल वाली उस देखते हैं कि उसमें हम क्या क्वेश्चंस डेवलप कर सकते हैं। ये वाला तो मैं शेयर कर ही दूंगा आपसे, इसका वीडियो भी मैं शेयर कर दूंगा, आप वीडियो को सुन लीजिएगा। तो वीडियो में ये पूरे जो भी रेगुलेशंस है ना, इसको ब्रीफली डिस्क्राइब किया हुआ है। 5-5, 10-10 मिनट के वीडियोस हैं वो, 3-4 मैंने पहले भी शेयर किए, एक्चुअली मेरा फोन भरता रहता तो मैं क्या करता रहता हूँ, डिलीट करता रहता हूँ। तो मैं उसको बोल दूंगा स्टाफ को दोबारा से मुझे भेज देगी, नहीं तो होना चाहिए। ये केस स्टडी ऑन, ये बोरवेल थी और एक और थी, ये इसको जरा देख लेते हैं, है ना, क्योंकि ये बोरवेल वाली केस स्टडी आ रही है। तो ये केस स्टडी तो नहीं है, लेकिन ये बुक में जो मटेरियल है वो है। तो उसके बेस पर हम क्या करते हैं, हम कोशिश करते हैं कि क्या क्या क्वेश्चंस वो हमसे पूछ सकता है इसमें। बेसिकली वही है, लोगों को क्या है, क्वेश्चन समझ में नहीं आ रहे, तो जितने भी लोग पास हो रहे हैं वो कर क्या रहे हैं कि वो केस स्टडी छोड़ के आ रहे हैं। भाई 85 नंबर का अटेम्प्ट करते हैं, 85 में 60 आ ही जाते हैं, ये है। तो केस स्टडी ऑन इंश्योरिंग एनवायरमेंटल, बट लेकिन ऐसा है, ये 2-3 केस स्टडी तो कम से कम हम कोशिश कर ही लें कि जो आ रही हैं फ्रीक्वेंटली। एक तो ये बोरवेल वाली आ रही है, तो इसमें
सर
क्या
काऊ
कहते हैं,
वाली मेन है,
हाँ
काऊ
वाली
है और डेंटल वाली है,
हाँ
डेंटल
ठीक है,
कुछ है।
ये भी आ रही है, बोरवेल की भी आ रही है। और फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन, ये 3-4 है कि स्टडी जो रिपीट हो रही है। कोई ना, हम ये शनिवार तक इसको, आज फ्राइडे है ना, तो कल तक हम कंप्लीट कर देंगे इसको। केस स्टडी कल बनाएंगे काफी सारी, कल केस स्टडी ही डिस्कस करेंगे हम। तो पहले आज एक देख लेते हैं, बोरवेल वाली क्या कहती है ये। इसमें कहता है कि एबी रिस्पॉन्सिबल सर्विसेज इज सोशल एंटरप्राइज नॉट फॉर प्रॉफिट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन वर्किंग इन महाराष्ट्र with more than 15 years of experience in watershed management programs. So AB Responsible Services was founded to address the issue of water conservation, soil conservation, and increasing availability of water for irrigation. So their focus on these areas has demonstrated increasing agricultural productivity, enhancing livelihood, and increasing green cover in their project areas. So their main project sites are in the district of Ratnagiri and Raigad, which faces extreme water shortage in spite of receiving good rainfall. Being a hilly terrain, the water turnoff to the sea is high. Building storage facilities is expensive due to the hilly terrain. AB Responsible Services wants to raise funds to initiate an integrated water management project to increase water storage capacity and thereby increase the productivity of a wide range of stakeholders. IWMP aims to conserve fertile soil, reduce and harvest runoff rainwater, recharge groundwater tables, create green belts, increase agricultural productivity, and thus contribute to community development. Activities in this project included construction of check dams, farm ponds, desilting, borewell recharge, and installing water pipelines for drinking water for households. The project has been implemented in 18 villages with a population of 25,000. So AB Responsible Services has invested a total of 45.3 lakhs in IWMP. Now, introduction. पूरी हिस्ट्री बता रहा है भाई कैसे कैसे हमने ये प्रोजेक्ट शुरू किया। व्हाट इज द ऑब्जेक्टिव एंड स्कोप? ऑब्जेक्टिव एंड स्कोप के अंदर आ रहा है आपका कि भाई रत्नागिरी एंड रायगढ़ डिस्ट्रिक्ट situated between Western Ghats and the Arabian Sea receive heavy rainfall during monsoon. So rainfall is a crucial factor affecting agriculture and domestic. Water resources are highly sensitive to climate change and can pose serious threats to food and environmental security. Understanding the change in rainfall patterns, inability to store water with slope of Western Ghats, and inadequate water resources in the region, AB Responsible Services developed the Integrated Watershed Management Program to address the issue of integrated water management. So this is basically statement of the problem. Okay, what is the problem? What is the issue? So IWMP project was implemented with an object of increasing agricultural productivity, enhancing livelihood, and increasing green cover. Second is evaluating social impact. This is important. So first of all, whenever you want to evaluate the social impact, there are various processes. First is the data collection, where you go in the field and you directly interact with the direct beneficiaries. So in this case, if you want to evaluate the social impact as a social auditor, first of all, you will do some data collection. What you will do? You will approach the stakeholders. Those stakeholders that have been approached for obtaining data include direct beneficiaries, so villagers, farmers, owners of local businesses. So in this case, they may ask that, okay, if you have developed a borewell, if you have executed a borewell project, Then with whom you will be interacting during data collection. So first party will be the direct beneficiaries, which could be villagers, farmers, owners of local businesses. Then implementing teams of AB responsible services. So these are the stakeholders. Then representatives of local government, panchayat members, relevant taluka and district level officers, NGOs operating in these districts on environmental issues. And the data collections tools used were key informants interviews, KII, focus group discussions, and quantitative surveys. So all these are included in data collection. These are data collection tools. Questions were designed and data collection conducted by AB responsible services. So there can be a question on data collection, stakeholders involved, data collection tools. And 5% sample was selected from direct beneficiaries, farmers, local business owners, and community from 18 villages of the program. Second is the desk review. So once you do this data collection, once you directly interact with the various stakeholders, then you sit in your office and you do some desk review. This desk review is basically done by senior personnel. Data collection may be outsourced also. So a desk review of existing documents was conducted to gain further insight into the evaluation procedure and impact assessment. These documents cover companies' policies, values, activities towards environment conservation. So reports generated under environment protection laws, annual reports, sustainable development curriculum, feedback form by staff or trainees, photographs of activities carried out under IWMP, then data on improved soil fertility, data on rainfall and availability of water, data on improved agricultural productivity, details of plans, programs held and to be held in future, water conservation management policy. So these are some of the things which are covered in documents, which you will review while sitting in your office. Then inspection and personal interviews. So besides desk review, this is third in lines. First is data collection, then desk review, and third is inspection and personal interviews. So besides desk review, physical inspection was conducted of check dams, bore wells, farm ponds, and water pipelines to understand the effectiveness of the program. Personal interviews were also conducted with selected stakeholders to understand the social and environmental impact. So this is third in line. If you are doing some social impact assessment, first of all, you will do some data collection, then you will undertake this desk review, and third will be inspection and personal interviews. Then focus group discussions. 10 KII and 500 quantitative surveys with stakeholders were conducted. Then evaluation questions. These evaluation questions were also reviewed by the social auditor to assess the responses received from various stakeholders and to understand what has changed. So this helped the social auditor in forming his views on the following aspects. So first is regarding the implementation. What watershed management activities were carried out in the village? What water supply related challenges were faced by the village population? Currently, what are the efforts being carried out by the local government for better water availability? What permissions were taken by the government departments to carry out IWMP activities? Then impact on agriculture. So what is the increase in the area of land that has been irrigated through the watershed development project? How many farmers have been impacted because of the watershed development activities? Have people been able to enhance their standard of living through vegetable gardens and bolster their cultivation? Has there been an improvement in biomass production? Then impact on health and standards of living. How many villagers got access to better drinking water supply? Have the incidences of waterborne diseases reduced in the villages? How much is the increase in annual income of villagers with enhanced agricultural productivity and improved income from local business? Then impact on environment. Has the water quality in the area improved? Has there been an improvement in biomass production? Is there an impact on aqua life? Then there are certain key metrics for evaluation project or program. The social auditor reviewed the project or program documents to frame the evaluation criteria for assessing impact. So key metrics collated from baseline, midline, monthly, quarterly, and end line assessments were analyzed to effectively understand and evaluate impact. So following aspects are covered with respect to direct beneficiaries. First is the demography. Then financial and social background of the beneficiaries, age, gender, occupation, family income, source of income. Second is water resources available for domestic, commercial, and industrial use, quality of water supply, amount spent by villagers to get additional water supply. Third is agriculture, current agricultural practices, land under irrigation, pre and post implementation, increase in farm production, increase in agriculture allied activities, increase in income from agriculture. Then commercial activities, change in income, environmental effects, enhanced soil and water quality, improved biodiversity, improved groundwater tables. Then assessment of evaluation criteria, illustrative key impact indicators. So following are the quantitative and qualitative indicators identified by the social auditor to capture social and environment impacts. Now, they may ask questions that which of these is a qualitative indicator, which of these is a quantitative indicator. They will give you some instances, like they will say that so much hectares of land was brought under irrigation. Now, whether it is a quantitative criteria or qualitative criteria, so they may ask questions like this. So normally, if figures are there, then they are quantitative criteria. 25,000 beneficiaries directly impacted, 1 lakh indirect beneficiaries, 177 hectares of land, 76. So if there is any percentage, amount, area, etc., then it is, but whatever can be quantified, वो सारा आपका quantitative criteria में आ जाएगा. ठीक है, देखो सारा यहाँ क्लियर हो रहा है इसमें. उसके बाद में क्वालिटेटिव क्राइटेरिया में क्या है? क्वालिटेटिव क्राइटेरिया में बेसिकली इंप्रूवमेंट है, लिविंग कंडीशंस में, हेल्थ कंडीशंस, स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग, पर कैपिटा वाटर अवेलेबिलिटी. ये दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट. ये पर कैपिटा वाटर अवेलेबिलिटी पे कुछ कंफ्यूजन हो सकता है, भाई ये क्वालिटेटिव क्राइटेरिया है या क्वांटिटेटिव क्राइटेरिया है. तो ये पर कैपिटा वाटर अवेलेबिलिटी ये आपका क्वालिटेटिव क्राइटेरिया. ठीक है, बाकी तो सारा आपको वैसे ही नजर आ रहा है. इम्प्रूव्ड अवेयरनेस, तो ये क्वालिटेटिव ही होगा. अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ न्यू एम्प्लॉयमेंट, इंक्रीज इन हाइड्रोलिक एनर्जी, इंक्रीज इन अवेयरनेस, तो ये चेंज इन सॉइल क्वालिटी, ये सारे तो क्वालिटेटिव है. ये पर कैपिटा वाटर अवेलेबिलिटी का आपको ध्यान रखना है कि ये आपका ये क्वालिटेटिव क्राइटेरिया है, क्वांटिटेटिव नहीं है. उसके बाद में असेसमेंट ऑफ चैलेंजेस एंड लिमिटेशंस. क्या क्या चैलेंजेस आ सकते हैं, क्या क्या लिमिटेशंस हो सकते हैं. सो ये भी हो सकता है कि विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज ए चैलेंज ड्यूरिंग दिस प्रोजेक्ट. ठीक है, विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज ए लिमिटेशन, ऐसा पूछ सकता है. वो इंस्टांसेस दे देगा आपको. तो क्या बोलता है, चैलेंजेस और एरियाज फॉर इंप्रूवमेंट. फॉलोइंग चैलेंजेस वर फेस्ड बाय स्टेक होल्डर्स व्हिच वर आइडेंटिफाइड ड्यूरिंग प्राइमरी डेटा कलेक्शन. ये चैलेंजेस क्या क्या है? पहला तो डिफिकल्टी इन अंडरस्टैंडिंग द इंपॉर्टेंस एंड यूज ऑफ वाटरशेड मैनेजमेंट प्रैक्टिसेस. Then inability to understand the immediate impact of climate change, lack of awareness about biodiversity, lack of awareness on maintenance of watershed management activities, underestimation of changes and impact of rainfalls and storms. तो ये सारी चीजें, ये आपको challenges आए इसमें. भाई उन्होंने कहा ये किससे क्या होगा, ये जो आप कर रहे हो. Limitations क्या है? Limitations ये है कि non availability of baseline data on all indicators, especially qualitative indicators. बेसलाइन डेटा क्या है? बेसलाइन डेटा वो है कि जब आप प्रोजेक्ट शुरू करते हैं तो उससे पहले क्या पोजीशन थी, वो है बेसलाइन हमारी. मिडलाइन क्या है कि हमने काम शुरू कर दिया, उसके बाद में मिडल ऑफ द पीरियड में क्या है, और फिर एंड लाइन. तो ओवरलैपिंग ऑफ स्टेक होल्डर्स एज फार्मर्स आर आल्सो पार्ट ऑफ लोकल कम्युनिटी. देन रिस्पोंडेंट्स इनएबिलिटी टू आंसर फ्यू क्वेश्चंस स्पेशली ऑन क्वांटिटेटिव इंडिकेटर्स. ये हमारे कुछ लिमिटेशंस. अब ये दूसरी वाली केस स्टडी है आपकी प्रमोशन. इसको करने से पहले हम इसके कुछ क्वेश्चंस देखते हैं. ठीक है, पहले वाली केस स्टडी के. अब हमने क्या किया, एक बोरवेल लगा दिया. ठीक है, हाँ, तो ये जो बोरवेल लगाया हमने, तो बोरवेल से उन लोगों की जो एग्रीकल्चरल्स है उनकी फार्मिंग में क्या इंप्रूवमेंट हुआ, ये सब चीजें हम किससे क्वेश्चनेयर पुट करेंगे. ठीक है, जो हम प्राइमरी डेटा कलेक्ट करेंगे वो कौन लोग होंगे, ये सारे क्वेश्चंस हमारे हो सकते हैं. तो एक बार हम क्वेश्चंस पे भी थोड़ी नजर दौड़ा लेते हैं कि क्या क्या क्वेश्चंस इसमें हो सकते हैं. एक तो देखिए क्वेश्चन आ जाएगा आपको क्वालिटेटिव और क्वांटिटेटिव क्राइटेरिया पे, वो तो सिंपल है। एक क्वेश्चन आ सकता है आपको डेटा कलेक्शन पर, ठीक है, कि डायरेक्ट ये डेटा कलेक्शन में कौन कौन से स्टेक होल्डर्स इन्वॉल्व है, ये पूछ सकता है आपसे, ठीक है। फिर अब इसमें ये पूछ सकता है कि विच अमंग्स द फॉलोइंग कुड बी द, जो क्वेश्चंस है ना जितने भी, जैसे इसमें क्या है, इन्होंने दे हैव गिवन 5 केस स्टडीज, लेकिन क्वेश्चंस 2 केस स्टडीज के दिए। सिमिलर क्वेश्चंस कैन बी आस्क्ड अबाउट दीज केस स्टडीज आल्सो, जैसे ये बोरवेल वाली केस स्टडी है, इसके क्वेश्चंस नहीं दे रखे। तो अब अगर आपको दूसरी केस स्टडी के क्वेश्चन दे रखे हैं, जैसे मैं दूसरी केस स्टडी के क्वेश्चन पढ़ रहा हूं, तो वो चीज इस पर भी अप्लाई हो सकती है। पहला क्या बोल रहा है, विच अमंग्स द फॉलोइंग could be the drawback of conducting social impact of this project through documenting case studies narrated by the participants। आपने बोरवेल लगाया, आप बोरवेल लगाने के बाद में फार्मर्स के पास पहुंच गए कि वो उन्होंने कह दिया भाई ठीक है हर खेत में एक बोरवेल लगेगा, ठीक है, या ये है कि इस तरह से कोई आपने स्कीम बनाई, जो कुछ भी स्कीम बनाई, या इतने एरिया के बाद एक बोरवेल लगेगा, या ये बोरवेल जो है इस पर्टिकुलर जो है फार्म्स को केटर करेगा, इस तरह से कर सकता है, पर फैमिली एक बोरवेल लगा दिया, कोई भी क्राइटेरिया हो सकता है। तो अब आपने क्या किया, उनके पास गए, उनके जो एक्सपीरियंस है उसको डॉक्यूमेंट किया। तो अगर ये एक्सपीरियंस, तो व्हाट कुड बी द ड्रॉबैक्स ऑफ डॉक्यूमेंटिंग केस स्टडीज नरेटेड बाय द पार्टिसिपेंट्स, ये इसमें क्वेश्चन हो सकता है, ठीक है। तो अब इसमें जो ड्रॉबैक्स आ सकती हैं वो ये है कि भाई जो इंडिविजुअल स्टेक होल्डर लेवल है, ये उसका ही एक्सपीरियंस इसके अंदर काउंट होगा, और जो लॉजिकल चेंज है सोशल इंपैक्ट में वो आप कैप्चर नहीं कर पाएंगे इस तरह से। अब उसमें क्या है, कुछ ये एडवांटेज दे देगा, कुछ ड्रॉबैक्स दे देगा, इस तरह से बेसिकली बात ही है। तो हमें क्या है, जितनी भी जैसे हमारी अप्रोचेस हैं, अब हमारी डिफरेंट अप्रोचेस हमने स्टडी की, हमने जितने भी चैप्टर्स हैं 1 to 7 वो सारे इस 8th चैप्टर पर लगा देने हैं हमने। अब इसको अगर हम देखें एक बार, जो एक बार सोशल ऑडिट स्टैंडर्ड भी देख लेते हैं। ये सोशल ऑडिट स्टैंडर्ड 500 पर बेस्ड है। अगर हम सोशल ऑडिट स्टैंडर्ड 500 को ध्यान से पढ़ेंगे तो हमें ये पूरी क्लैरिटी आ जाएगी कि है क्या चीज। एक बार मैं 500 स्टैंडर्ड भी आपको दिखा देता हूँ। ये है, ये है सोशल, ये 500 है। इतना, ये तो पहला तो इतना इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है, पहला तो खाली इसका ऑब्जेक्टिव एंड स्कोप है, ठीक है। तो ऑब्जेक्टिव एंड स्कोप में क्या है, एनवायरमेंट सस्टेनेबिलिटी, एनवायरमेंट से रिलेटेड है तो एनवायरमेंट सस्टेनेबिलिटी की बात करता है ये। फिर प्रोसेस कैसे होगा ये इंपॉर्टेंट है, डेटा कलेक्शन, ठीक है। तो डेटा कलेक्शन में क्या होगा, ये देखिए, द स्टेक होल्डर्स दैट मे बी अप्रोच्ड फॉर ऑब्टेनिंग डेटा में भी, देखो, डायरेक्ट बेनिफिशियरीज जो पीपल है, दोज हु आर लिविंग इन पोल्यूटेड या अफेक्टेड एरियाज, फॉरेस्ट ऑफिशियल्स एक्सेट्रा। फिर सस्टेनेबिलिटी ट्रेनर्स, टीचर्स इन स्कूल, ट्रेनर्स इम्पार्टिंग ऑन द जॉब अवेयरनेस, monitoring agency, testing agencies, employers, key program officials of the reporting entity. The overall activity of conducting a survey and collecting sample data should be reviewed in terms of the following factors: designed by an in-house team or external, इसके नीचे भी होगा ये। तो आप ये क्या कर सकते हो, एक तो इसको इन हाउस टीम को दे सकते हो। डेटा कलेक्शन कैसे कर सकते हो आप, डेटा जैसे आपने बोरवेल किया, ठीक है, अब आपको उसका सोशल इंपैक्ट असेसमेंट करना है, तो क्या करोगे, या तो इन हाउस टीम में लगाओगे या एक्सटर्नल स्पेशलाइज्ड एजेंसी लगा लोगे, ठीक है। इट कैन बी कंडक्टेड बाय इन हाउस टीम और एक्सटर्नल स्पेशलाइज्ड एजेंसी। और कवरेज कैसे करोगे, आप इसको नंबर ऑफ म्यूनिसिपैलिटीज, डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स, टोटल डिस्टेंस कवर्ड के हिसाब से भी कवर कर सकते हो। फिर डेस्क रिव्यू में क्या करोगे आप, डेस्क रिव्यू में जो भी रिपोर्ट्स जनरेटेड है अंडर एनवायरमेंटल प्रोटेक्शन लॉज या सस्टेनेबिलिटी पॉलिसी ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट करिकुलम है, असेसमेंट रिपोर्ट ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स ट्रेनर्स, तो ये सारी बातें आप इसके अंदर ये देखोगे। अटेंडेंस रजिस्टर ऑफ फैकल्टी ट्रेनर्स, फोटोग्राफ्स वगैरह, ये सारी चीजें जो हैं, डेटा ऑन जनरेशन ऑफ वाटर, वेस्ट वाटर एक्सेट्रा, डेटा ऑन कलेक्शन ऑफ डेब्रिस लेटर। तो ये तो डिफरेंट इन्होंने एनवायरमेंटल इम्पैक्ट का दे दिया ना 500 में। एनवायरमेंटल इम्पैक्ट में आपको मतलब है अभी सिर्फ बोरवेल से, ठीक है, तो आप जो वाटर से रिलेटेड है वो 500 में से निकाल लोगे आप। फिर प्रोसेस कैसे करोगे आप, प्रोसेस के लिए है कि ये कंडक्टिंग फिजिकल इंस्पेक्शन एंड इंटरव्यूज। फिर प्रोसेस इवेल्युएशन क्वेश्चंस, इवेल्युएशन क्वेश्चंस में ये है कि भैया ये जो टारगेट था हमारा, जो हम जैसे हमने बोरवेल लगाए, बोरवेल से क्या था भाई, वाटर क्वालिटी इंप्रूव हो, वाटर बोर्न डिजीजेस कम हो जाए, ठीक है ना, विलेजर्स के लिए एग्रीकल्चरल इंक्रीज एग्रीकल्चरल प्रोडक्टिविटी हो जाए, तो वो सब चीजें। तो क्या जो टारगेट पॉपुलेशन थी, क्या दे गॉट अवेयर, डिड द टारगेट पीपल गेट अवेयर अबाउट सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट, डू दे थिंक डिफरेंटली आफ्टर द ट्रेनिंग, डिड दे लर्न समथिंग दे डिड नॉट नो, did they use or apply the knowledge and gain from it, did they share it with others, did target areas benefit, इसका जो टारगेट एरियाज थे उसको कोई बेनिफिट हुआ या नहीं हुआ, ये सारी चीजें। डिड द एयर लैंड वाटर सरफेस रिड्यूस, ठीक है, अगर कोई पोल्यूशन थी क्या वो रिड्यूस हुई, डिड द वेस्ट वाटर वेस्ट कलेक्शन रिसाइकलिंग बियर, तो ये सारी बातें आपको। हैव एक्टिविटीज लाइक टिम्बर एक्सट्रैक्शन, वाटर एक्सट्रैक्शन फ्रॉम शैलो एक्विफायर स्टॉप्ड, ठीक है, भाई पहले वो तालाब से जोड़ से पानी लेते थे, अब उनके लिए बोरवेल लगा दी, तो इस तरह से। तो ये सब चीजें जो हैं ये आपकी इवेल्युएशन क्वेश्चंस में आ जाएंगी। और की मैट्रिक्स क्या होंगे, क्योंकि अब ये जो सोशल ऑडिट स्टैंडर्ड है आपको ये वाले कम से कम 4 या 5 पढ़ लेने। अगर आपको पता है बोरवेल वाली स्टडी आ रही है तो बोरवेल जो है वो क्लाइमेट में कवर्ड है, एनवायरमेंट में कवर्ड है, तो ऐसे 500 आप देख लीजिएगा, ये वाला हमने शेयर किया हुआ आपसे, ठीक है। अच्छा अगर ये ना होता तो क्या होता, ये आपका आ रहा है रिव्यू में, की मैट्रिक्स फॉर इवेल्युएशन। इवेल्युएशन में ये है अगर आप बोरवेल ना लगाते तो क्या होता, व्हाट वुड हैव हैपेंड इन द एब्सेंस ऑफ द इंटरवेंशन, हाउ मच हैज द प्रोजेक्ट कंट्रीब्यूटेड टू द चेंजेस दैट आर एविडेंस्ड, ठीक है, इज देयर एनी अनइंटेंडेड नेगेटिव इंपैक्ट दैट हैपेंड ड्यू टू द इंटरवेंशन, ठीक है। सो सच इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट एंश्योरिंग एनवायरमेंटल सस्टेनेबिलिटी, आपको कंपोजिशन डेमोग्राफी देखनी है, तो अब आपको क्या करना है 500 में से देख लो भाई बोरवेल से रिलेटेड कौन कौन सी बातें हैं, वो मैं भी कोशिश करता हूँ कल इसको कुछ करता हूँ बनाने की। फिर असेसमेंट ऑफ इवैल्यूएशन क्राइटेरिया, इलस्ट्रेटिव की परफॉर्मेंस इंडिकेटर्स, ये की परफॉर्मेंस इंडिकेटर्स क्या है, ये अब आपको देने हैं। इवैल्यूएशन क्राइटेरिया में कुछ क्वांटिटेटिव क्राइटेरिया है और कुछ क्वालिटेटिव क्राइटेरिया है। इसमें वो आपसे इनडायरेक्टली पूछ लेगा, कुछ आइटम डाल देगा, विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज नॉट इंक्लूडेड इन क्वांटिटेटिव क्राइटेरिया, या विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज नॉट इंक्लूडेड इन क्वालिटेटिव क्राइटेरिया, इस तरह से। फिर चैलेंजेस के ऊपर कुछ सवाल दे सकता है आपको, वो इसी तरह से सवाल बनाएगा बेसिकली। फिर लिमिटेशन है, भाई वो कुछ आंसर नहीं करते सपोज, ठीक है ना, तो सम ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस बीइंग स्किप्ड बाय द रिस्पोंडेंट्स एंड रिमेनिंग अनआंसर्ड, नॉन अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ रिस्पोंडेंट्स ड्यू टू रिलोकेशन, चेंज इन कॉन्टैक्ट डिटेल्स, तो ये बहुत सारी चीजें इसमें हो सकती है। फिर टेक्सोनॉमी क्लासिफिकेशन ऑफ एरियाज, तो इस तरह से ये बेसिकली आपका ये एरियाज है और फिर कुछ सब एरियाज है, ठीक है। तो इसको मोटा मोटा आप देख सकते हैं, भाई अटेम्प्ट करें ना करें लेकिन थोड़ा सा आइडिया तो होना ही चाहिए कि भाई है क्या चीज। तो कल मैं इस पर केस स्टडी बनाता हूँ, केस स्टडी बना के कुछ क्वेश्चंस बनाता हूँ, है कि नहीं। 3-4 तो मैं बना ही दूंगा, एक तो बोरवेल वाली बना देता हूँ, एक बना देता हूँ काउ शेल्टर वाली, और एक बना देता हूँ उसकी फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन, और एक और। तो ये 4 इसके जो ऑडिट स्टैंडर्ड्स हैं वो भी आपको एक मोटा मोटा देख लेने हैं। ये सारे ऑडिट स्टैंडर्ड्स मैंने आपके साथ ऑलरेडी शेयर किए हुए हैं, ठीक है जी। तो बाकी कथा कल करते हैं फिर।